So here is the little information session on a waistband, which is two piece waistband when you have an invisible zipper that's going to go to the top of the waistband. Okay, so let me explain the pieces. So this is our garment. So whatever our garment is, a skirt, a pair of pants, bottoms, shorts, whatever your garment is. And this is your waistline. Okay, pretending this is your waistline. And I'll zoom in. This is your zipper. So say this is your center back seam. We'll say these are your center back seams. Didn't want to do a front pattern and a back pattern, so we just I'm just doing it on one so you can see. And if these two will meet, let's see if I can turn it over, pretending like pretending like there was some side seams and I sewed along the side seams there. This is where your zipper, because that's the center back seam, okay? And these is where the your zipper will be attached to the center back seam. But I just did it all on one, just to save time and material. Okay, so center back seam, center back seam. This is your waistline. That's where your zipper will be installed. And this application, again, is for a waistband, a two-piece waistband. There are fold-over methods, but like I told you before, I just think the two-piece is just more professional looking. So two-piece waistband. So this is the waistband because it corresponds with the garment. And I used a separate one for the waistband facing. So this is the waistband, this is the waistband facing. So this is the wrong side, excuse me, because as you can tell I wrote on it. This will be the wrong side of the waistband facing. That is the right side. You can tell there's a difference between the two sides. Okay, so this is the right side of the facing, and this will be the right side, obviously, of my waistband. Okay, all right, so what we're gonna do, this is the wrong side, obviously, because I wrote on it. Okay, but I just want you to see the parts of everything. So it's kind of basically like the facing is just an extra step. All it is an extra step. Now when you think about doing a waistband, you want your zipper to be at the height of your waistband, right? So we will not install the zipper at this point yet because we don't have the height of the waistband, right? Because the waistband is going to be a little bit more higher. So when we install the zipper, we want the waistband to already be in place. So we'll be able to install the zipper to the height of where it should go. Okay, so that's the first thing to keep in mind. So I'm gonna flip this over so that it's right side up. And we're going to take the waistband, okay, because this is the waistband matching, okay, that's how you have it. And you want it to be right sides together, just like anything else you sew, okay, right sides together. And just for ease of purposes and sewing, I made my seam allowances a 1/2 inch. Okay, remember, but commercial patterns are typically 5/8, but I made mine half. So what you're going to do, I wrote 1/2 inch here. You're going to sew your 1/2 inch seam across the top of your waistline, okay, which will attach your waistband to your garment. Okay, so again, whatever your seam allowance is, commercial is typically 5/8. I made mine 1/2 inch across the top, and my initials here, ZA, is just zipper allowance. Okay, that's just where the zipper will be. So once we finish this and we flip this to the right side, okay, then this will be the height of our waistband. So from this point, then we can install the zipper because we have the height of the waistband, the finished waistband, the height of what it would be. Okay, so let's go to the sewing machine and sew across the top here. And most definitely feel free to place some pins, you know, to keep everything stable. It's hard for me to do it holding holding the camera, so I'm gonna do it off camera. I'll put one in so you can see. Okay. Again, so let's sew that and we will be back. Now remember, I don't always say it, but when you sew a seam, you press a seam. So remember to press it flat, which melts the stitches into the garment, and then press it open like that, okay? So just to melt that. Okay, so from here, so this is what you should have. We did the stitching. Okay, it was right sides together. So now this is our waistband. Now to eliminate bulk, I typically just trim this down by half. I'll try to do this on camera. So all right. Now, you want to make sure that your seam allowance, that's that little piece here that I just trimmed, is away from the garment, okay? You want to press your waistband up and give that a nice press so it's also away from the garment, okay? I'm not going to press it, I'm just going to hand press it to save time. So now this is your garment, okay? This is where your zipper will go. Now remember, this will be what it would look like, you know, if we did the true. It'd be like that with the side seam stitched. So that's where your zipper will go. So you just, at this point, you install your zipper as you normally would up to the top of your waistband, because this is where your finished waistband will be. But remember with us, when we do invisible zippers, we have some hanging over. So just remember, do not cut that. So now it's the facing, right? And your facing, your waistband facing is just like any other facing that you do. Okay, that's why I said it's basically similar. You're just doing the steps twice. In all honesty, you're just doing it twice. So make sure that your waistband is in the correct position, which is facing up and away from the garment, and just make sure that your seam allowance is also up and away from your garment, okay? Now we're going to place right sides together. So this is the right side of the garment because there's no writing on it, and this is the right side of the waistband because it's more, you know, printed, the printed side. You can see that. And you're just going to line up the raw edges of your waistband to your waistband facing. All right, try to do this with one hand, and again, pin to secure. Okay, and all you're going to do, just like you do with your regular facing, you're going to stitch along the top here, your 1/2 inch or whatever your seam allowance is. Again, commercial parents 5/8, but here we're going to do 1/2 inch along here. And once we do that, we'll be back and go from there. Okay, at this point you should be here. So now we done attach the waistband facing to the waistband. All right, with your seam, whatever your seam allowance is. And remember to back stitch at the beginning and ending of your stitches. That's with everything. So that was here and your original when you attach the waistband to the garment. Always back stitch, okay, at both ends. I'm sorry, I know my dog's about to bark. That's why I was pausing. Okay, so at this point, hey, psst. So remember to have your seam allowance again away from your garment, okay, away from the garment, and again press that, okay. Have it away from the garment, and you're going to flip your waistband facing up away. And at this point, just like you did with your facing, you did what? You understitched, right? So here we're going to understitch, and remember understitching. So this is your seam. The seam is the joining, which we just did. So what you're going to do is ensure that the seam allowance is away from the garment, and you're going to attach the waistband facing this piece to the seam allowance by sewing on the waistband facing close to the stitch line, the seam line, the previous seam line. So you're going to stitch on the waistband facing about right here, close. And what this does is attach the waistband facing to the seam allowance. Okay, do that and move back. Okay, so this is what you should have so far. This is your garment, and this is all looking up at the correct side. So this is your garment, this is your waistband, this is your waistband facing, and we just did the understitching, and hopefully you can see the red thread. It's on the facing side, close to this stitch line. This is the stitch line, and the red is the understitching. Okay, now at this point, what you're going to do is, again, to eliminate bulk, is trim your seam allowance here down by half again. Okay, so just pull the waistband away from the seam allowance, the waistband facing away from the seam allowance, so just to expose this seam allowance here, and trim it by half. And again, I'll try to do it on camera. So we're just trimming down. Trim that down by half. All right. So at this point, that's what you should have. All right. Now remember, give that a good press. So in essence, everything should be away from the garment. All seam allowances, all waistbands, all waistband facings, everything should be away from your garment, okay? And now all you're going to do is flip the waistband facing. Now let me say, and I forgot to do and tell you, with the waistband facing, finish the raw edge however you would want to. You can zigzag it. If you want it to look more like a waistband, you would turn it under, you know, whatever you want it to, you know, a half an inch or anything like that, and press it. Hold on, let me kind of pretend like I did that. Okay, like that. You would turn it under, so it'll be a clean finish like that. Okay, so all the way over. You just turn under and press. You don't have to stitch it, just turn under and press. If you want a clean finish, like a regular waistband. Or you can, I just want to show you my crazy dog. She gets so angry if somebody walks past the door, her window, I mean. Anywho, Skittles. And so, but typically what I do is just serge it, you know, unless it's a professional type garment, then I'll do the fold under and press, so it looks more like a traditional waistband. Kiddos. So from this point, what you do is just turn under the facing to the inside of the garment, and then you will give it a good press. Turn it under, and then I'll show you. So, just so this is called the turn of the cloth, because the way we stitched it close to the seam line, but on the facing side, it turns under just a little bit of the waistband itself, and that's just called turn of the cloth, and that just keeps the facing to the correct side. Okay, so we're looking at the inside of the garment, so if we turn it to the correct side, this will be your waistband. Okay, so from this point, this is what we did. So remember, at this point you want to press it, and depending on how you finish the edge, you know, it'll either be turned in like this, you know, or zigzagged, or serged. All right, so from this point, what you would do is I stitch in the ditch, which is basically re-stitching in the seam line from the right side of the garment. So from the right side of the garment facing up, you put your needle right back in, excuse me, that seam here, and stitch. So what you kind of have to do is pull the two parts away from itself. So you'll pull the garment that way, and you'll pull the waistband that way. So you'll pull your, let me use something else. You'll pull the garment that way, and then you'll pull the waistband. Where's my camera? I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to find the camera. I'm sorry, too. That way. Oh, I'm cracking myself up. Let's try it again. So from looking at it, the garment, you'll pull it toward the left, and the waistband, you'll pull it toward the right. Okay. So it'll look like, see if I can hold it. There we go. So you're going to be pulling apart. You pull your fingers apart. So I'm pulling this one this way, pulling this one this way as you sew. So again, the needle will be in the actual seam itself, and you're kind of trying to pull the pieces apart. See how that is? When you pull it apart, you can actually kind of see in that seam. So you want to stitch right in there, in that seam. And what that does is hide the second stitch. So there's no second stitch on here. Now, you can do a edge stitch, which will be here, very close to the seam. Most definitely. In some garments, you do see that. So that's fine to do if you want to do it that way. I just typically do stitch in a ditch so you do not see the seam itself. But the beauty of that is when you stitch in a ditch here, it catches the facing. Okay. And so once you finish that, your facing will be definitely secure. Your waistband facing will be secured to the inside of the garment. And I think that is it. Now, if you do the fold over method, depending on how wide your faceband is, it still should catch. So if we folded this over 1/2 inch, yeah, so it would catch. So let me flip it so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. I want to make sure that it catches the fold to keep the fold in place. So that is the pin. This is folded under approximately 1/2 inch. Okay, so you stitch in a ditch. You basically stitching in that groove. I'll do a little better job to show you. You basically stitching inside that stitch, that seam line, which will catch your facing and will catch the fold, so it will not be unfolded. 1 second so I can show you. Sorry guys. All right, so hold on, I'm sorry. Probably hard to see, but once you do it, you understand if you do the fold method. I don't know if you see me stitching, that's pretend like the stitching, but it'll go through the fold itself, so it'll secure the fold in place. All right, and so that's it about the waistband. So that'll be your finished waistband. Any questions on that? Let me know. Okay. Everybody have a good day and get ready for our skirt version 2. Sew up. All right.